And so finding ways to not only do the work around the house or the things that need to be done, but also appreciate the other in doing them as well as they do, or doing them in the way that they do. It doesn't even have to be well, but just appreciating the act itself, the effort itself. What does it really mean to integrate the masculine and the feminine in the household? In your home, there may be a predominant masculine energy and a predominant feminine energy. And for you to understand who is dominating or occupying those roles and how you can apply those roles to things around the house, like how to help with the kids, how to divide up, chores, or how to even navigate conversations around finances, around your sex life, etc., etc. All can be traced back to these two inherent energies, the masculine and the feminine. And we're going to dive into what that actually looks like for you today in your home, and I'm going to share a little bit about what it means in my home. So, welcome to the Embodied Relationship podcast with Braedy Mac. I'm, of course, Braedy Mac, and it's a pleasure to have you here today. This is a place where I get to share free tips and insights into living an embodied, loving relationship. And it's an interesting time for me, especially. And what I mean by that is I've been traveling around the world for about 8 years now, and I've not really been in one place for more than 6 months at a time through those 8 years. And finally, I am in one place that I'm getting to call home, and I'm really, really excited about it because although traveling was incredible and I loved moving around so much and seeing so much of the world and experiencing new cultures and new friends and different communities, I'm just in this point in my life where I'm ready to settle down, ready to be in one place, ready to tend to my garden outside. I'm ready to, have my house in order and in structure and in a way that, I'm in my routine, I'm in my own flow, and I'm preparing for, family life. And so I have arrived here in Byron Bay, Australia, and I set up home, found, our dream home after a long time of looking for where should we live, what were the things that really mattered to us. We wanted to have a place where we could have our own space, where no one could hear us. We could be as loud as we want, we can sing, we can make love, we can dance, we can play music as loud as we want. We've got no neighbors anywhere in sight. That was really important to us. Number two was having a conscious community. We had looked at many places around the world and many different communities, and I've experienced many different communities, and especially here in Australia where we really wanted to live, there's a very unique community here in Byron Bay which is really conscious, and that was really important to us to know that we're far enough away from everyone that we can be as loud and as wild as we want, yet also in a place that we're not just in the middle of a farm field where there's less community and less consciousness and people that are interested in holistic health and breath work and nervous system regulation and conscious love. So we wanted the mixture of both and really found we found it here, which is amazing. So here in this home, it's been about a week of me being in the home, and then Loa came and joined me from she was on tour in Europe. And now we're both here living together, and the change and shift that's happened has been really cool. Because when I was on my own, I think I was very much in both my masculine and my feminine energies a lot of the time. And the reason for that was because we as humans, tend to want to come back to center. In biology or in nervous system speak, we call it homeostasis. The practice of coming back to homeostasis is your body's attempt to continuously regulate itself. So if it's hot, it'll cool itself down. If it's cool, it'll heat itself up. If it's stressed, it'll seek rest. If it's super tired, it'll seek excitement. And so it's continuously doing this, and it's going to continue to do that for the rest of your life. On a much more subtle level and a much more energetic level, your system is also attempting to balance its masculine and its feminine energies. And everything in life has a masculine and a feminine pole and can vary from time to time, including us. So when you think about being on your own, taking care of yourself, so making all of your own meals, nurturing yourself, attempting to work during the day, and then attempting to relax and rejuvenate yourself at night, you kind of get in this flow, or at least I did, of finding a way to regulate both the masculine and the feminine. So, of course, I was, going on runs, and I was working a lot, and I had lots of structure in my day. And then at night, I also was cooking all my own meals, and I was really enjoying like the dance of putting together these meals and making my smoothie in the morning. Incredible green smoothie. I'll put a recipe out for that in another episode. But I was also enjoying taking baths at night. I was like really sensual with myself at night, and that's because that's what my body craved. And it's important, I think, for all of us to just acknowledge that we're not, binary, and we're not, one-dimensional beings. We're multifaceted, meaning we're not just masculine or we're not just feminine. We're both, and we need both to create balance and harmony in our life. Now, what's happened since Loa has come and joined me here? Well, it's been very interesting to witness the masculine side of me come out even more. And that's because she, as a primarily feminine being, has come and has brought so much of that nourishment. I mean, she's cooking meals for us, she's singing, we're doing lots of body work and lots of sexual activity and lots of play and all of these things that, she's kind of brought in her own essence into the home and populated it with this nourishing quality, which nourishes me to actually be more structured, to get more work done, to collect more firewood and do more, garden work around the house and heavy labor. And so it's been able to be really beautiful to witness me being in more masculine and her balancing the energy of not just me, but of the space that we occupy. So how does that translate? How does that translate for you? How does that translate for the house? How does that translate for, us living in balance with the masculine and the feminine? Well, the masculine often craves freedom. Like the ultimate craving for the masculine is often freedom. And freedom, particularly in the mind, is really where that lives. And so for the masculine, oftentimes he might crave silence. So that's been another interesting thing that I've noticed is since Loa's been here and she's introduced all of this nourishment and all of these meals and all these great, playful conversations, at the same time, it's also forced me into, or invited me into, feeling more like craving more silence and just moments of nothingness and moments with just nature and actually like less conversation at times. And there's different ends to this spectrum. It could be so far into silence that I'm just like actually avoiding life. There's not avoidance, but there's a healthy craving for silence. And I just want to acknowledge that for anyone who's primarily masculine, that is craving, I just need a break. I need, a retreat. I need some time in nature. I need some time away from the feminine, which is movement, which is chaos, which is excitement. There's a lot moving. And so the silence and the stillness is oftentimes craved for the masculine. So also important for the feminine to recognize that sometimes the masculine just needs some space, some time, some silence, some stillness. And if you're noticing the masculine in yourself craving that silence or that stillness, or there's just too much noise, there's just too much movement, too much chaos in your life, you've got to create that for yourself. You've got to take a moment and pause, or take a moment and ask for some space and be in your own space, or be in meditation, or take a trip to go camping solo, or take a trip, even just a walk in the woods is, going to provide the silence and the stillness that your mind is really craving. But there really is a practice of introducing that silence in. Now, what happens is once you experience more of that silence, that stillness, oftentimes your masculine feels free again. He feels nourished. He feels like free. And so when he comes back into the flow of the relationship, oftentimes he can experience this feeling of feeling refreshed and feeling like, I can connect to you again now. So it's just important to acknowledge that silence and stillness is something that the masculine craves and is something that he should make an effort to take. Now, the other thing that really came up was the feeling of wanting to work out more for myself, wanting to work out, wanting to lift heavy shit, wanting to be in the yard, chopping wood, making fires, and like cleaning up the garden, and like getting my hands dirty, and carrying wheelbarrows full of like chopped wood. And that was interesting for me to notice the subtlety in myself, how that really changed when Loa was here, in some ways to support myself in feeling strong, feeling hard, right? When we think even anatomically, when we're making love, the masculine becomes hard, right? And that's what creates the possibility for this dynamic flow of love making, is when the masculine is hard. And so there is this natural urge within me to be stronger. I was doing more push-ups each day. I usually do 50 to 100 push-ups each day, and I just kind of do that as a intermittent, like 10 every few minutes. I'll probably do 20 to 30 after this podcast, just for fun. But I've noticed myself doing more of that once Loa was here, and the reason that I think that was happening was partially for me to feel hard, and knowing that I felt this strength that was not only wanted for myself, but also needed for the feminine to feel safe. Now, I don't mean that you have to go do push-ups to make the feminine partner feel safe. However, it gives, on a much subtler level, it gives this perception of safety when the feminine can lean up against the masculine and feel like he is strong, he's steady. And that might be physically, like her actually leaning up against him and feeling the strength, the steadiness, the groundedness within him. But it also might be emotionally, when she has a huge emotion, what does he respond with? Is he pulling away, or is he running away, or is he collapsing himself emotionally, or can he just firmly stand strong like a mountain and receive her and say, I've got you, I'm strong, we've got this. And that can help create emotional support and safety for the feminine when the masculine is sturdy and strong physically, emotionally, spiritually. Can he have faith? And I'm saying he and she as a representation of the masculine and feminine, but again, this can be present in a man or a woman or anything else. We all just tend to lie on the spectrum, anywhere from masculine to feminine to neutrality. And I use he or she referring to like the essence of the great him, or the essence of the great her. So silence stillness and freedom is what the masculine craves. And he oftentimes is able to sit in silence and in stillness and receive that when he is strong. You think about if he's out in nature on a hike for the weekend to recalibrate and find stillness, well, he's got to endure the elements. He's got to be able to make it through that forest with like some degree of strength. So, the stillness and the silence in the mind comes through having this relationship and attunement to a strong body and nervous system. And outside of, going on a camping trip, but rather like inside the house, another thing that the masculine really craves is order, right? And when you're by yourself, it's pretty easy to keep order, right? All the tea towels are folded nicely and put over the oven little hanger rack thing. I don't know what the technical term for that is, but you know what I mean. A tea towel that's sitting on the oven. Everyone seems to have that. And that's, in order. When you're finished with that, you go and you put it back. Or, the books on the bookshelf, they're in order. Or the table, it's all clean because you have one plate and you eat on that one plate, and then you clean that one plate, and then you have it. That's probably that same plate from the drying rack the next day. But when there's someone else involved, and particularly a feminine being, there can be this creative flow. And sometimes the thing about the creative flow is it's not always clean, right? Creativity comes from change, right? That's what creativity is this quality of something different. And in order for something to be different, we need things to kind of lose order a little bit, right? This is where some of the tendencies of chaos and movement come in when we think about the feminine. And so in the home, it might be really artsy and curvy and like smooth and sensual for the feminine. And for the masculine, he might crave, like really clean surfaces, edges, straight corners. These are all things that the masculine is going to likely crave. And honestly, like for the most part, we've grown up in, or at least I have grown up in a predominantly masculine world, right? A lot of, like, even if you look at most streets in cities, like they're straight and then they're gridlocks, right? They're horizontal or they're vertical. And this is just the way that, streets and cities are made. Mostly because it's been all male politicians up until, the last few decades. And I like to think that if feminines, or, if a more feminine being was in charge of creating cities, there'd be like probably circular streets. It might be just one big circle. And there would be probably more art places and people, more communities. And, I really appreciate that in the feminine is her view of this more holistic way of creating in the world. All that is to say that the feminine may come and introduce some more chaos in the home. And the feminine might, be in this, and especially someone like Loa, who's just such creative. She's such an artist. And so she's just in her flow, and she's actually really clean. But, sometimes there's just a little more movement in the home, right? And that can be beautiful as a nourishing practice to introduce more of this movement and for the masculine to introduce more of this stillness. So I just bring that in because when you think about something like, say, cooking, that might be more of a movement or a creative process, and Loa does so much of the cooking here. And oftentimes I'll end up doing a lot of the cleaning in terms of, like she'll cook and I'll clean the dishes. And that feels really good for both of us. That's a really unique flow, and this could be adopted by you or not, but it really works for us. And so when we think about when you think about your household, what are the things that feel more like movement, creative based, and what are the things that are like structure, logic, and how can we just make sure that it is done? It ticks the box. That would be more of the masculine thing. And then consider, okay, do I want to be the one who, say, pays the bills? Do I want to be the one who, say, picks up the kids? Do I want to be the one who, so on and so on? So you figure out these things in the home, because the thing about, housework is it's work. And the thing about housework, which is worse than work, is it's unpaid work. So some of the time no one wants to do it. But some of the time you find out that one person actually really loves cooking. Like Loa, for example, she loves cooking. I had an example last night. We were having this wonderful vegetable soup that she made. And I said, well, maybe next time we just make a big pot so we have leftovers for the next day and the next day and the next day. And she's like, no, I love cooking. I want to cook again the next day. I want to cook again the next day. And I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. And I am of the mind of like, the less cooking I have to do, the better, because then I have this massive pot of something and I'm good for the next 3 days. And it's very much strategy over creativity. And so consider for yourself in the home what kind of work there is and who would love to do it more, and how can you find a way to love it more? If it's cooking, can you toss on some music while you're doing it? If it's doing the dishes, can you feel the sensations of the bubbles on your fingers? How can you find a way to love what you're doing in the home? And then support each other, thank each other for doing it. Like for Loa, she's, I think, already told me 3 times today, thank you so much for doing the dishes. And I've told her probably 1,000,000 times, thank you so much for the dinner that you created for us last night. It was amazing. It was really, really good. And so finding ways to not only do the work around the house or the things that need to be done, but also appreciate the other in doing them as well as they do, or doing them in the way that they do. It doesn't even have to be well, but just appreciating the act itself, the effort itself. There's a massive study that talks about 2 groups of people. One group was a group of kids that were rewarded for everything. So they were, giving acknowledgement and praise for everything that they did, whether they came first place, second place, third place, whether they, accomplished something, or if they didn't accomplish something. They just, was praise for everything. And then they took another group and they gave them praise just for the times that they put in effort. So not the result that they got, but the effort that they put in. And they started to praise the effort. And what they found was I think it was 90% of the second group, where they were being praised for their effort, they started to excel 90% more than the other group. And these numbers are probably a little off. I'm repeating the study that someone else told to me. I haven't actually looked at the study, but the essence of what I'm saying is when we praise each other for the effort over result, or effort over outcome, we start to be better at just taking the next step in life, just taking the next step and just moving forward. And if we can start to praise effort over outcome, we can start to support each other in a way that really promotes more togetherness, more union, more love, more conscious embodiment. And that's the place that we want to get to, right? So appreciating not only the person's effort, but their approach to it. One other thing that I really noticed in Loa, when she arrived here, she was on the opposite side of the spectrum. Meaning, if our body's always trying to find balance. If it's trying to balance between its masculine and its feminine energies. And she was on her own, and she's primarily a feminine being. She was much more in a masculine-like energy. And this is likely, partially she was traveling, she was on tour, she had all of these experiences where she had to, be in charge, and she had to schedule things, and she had to show up in a certain way and in integrity and in structure. She was holding a lot of space for a lot of people. She was becoming the structure. And then since she's been here, what's been beautiful to witness is her body and her nervous system and her energy drop into this state of relaxation. And this is what the feminine craves. The feminine craves softness and craves safety, right? Craves nature, craves expression, and craves love, right? And for the ultimate expression of the feminine, it's love. And the way that you get there is through all those other things. The way that the feminine gets to love is through softness, through safety. And being here in this home where we've got so much space, so much land, so much opportunity, and so much nature, there is an inherent experience of just dropping when you're here on this land. I actually joke because the first few times that I came and visited this property, I noticed that as soon as I was here, I had to poop. And that's because my whole system started to relax so much. And my intestines actually started to loosen up as soon as I stepped on this land. And it was like, So now the first thing that I do when people come and visit is I show them where the washroom is, just in case they have that same experience. But Loa's system started to really drop when she came here, and part of that was because she was here in the house. Part of it was because we were back together, and of course I was more in the masculine. I was showing her where the car is, and where I was giving her a car and access to the home and the nature and the sauna and the hot tub and the whole thing. And it's just a really zen atmosphere to live in here. And her system started to surrender. And surrender is a funny one because I think oftentimes we ask or we're expected to surrender in some way, which is like, it's a pretty tough thing to actually get to that place of surrender. And I don't think it's fair to ask someone to just surrender. I think what is fair to ask is to relax or to soften. So if you feel like you want to embrace more feminine qualities, or you feel like you want to just practice the act of surrender, start by just softening. Soften just a piece of your body, maybe your belly, or your forehead, or your jaw, your hands, or your feet, your spine, your sacrum, your shoulders. Just soften and relax. And already you've started to embody more of a feminine-like quality of this softness, this surrender. And this softness gives life to the softening of the heart, which is when we experience love, is in softness. And so these are some of the practices that you can use in your home to incorporate the masculine and the feminine dynamics, from the work that you do, to the embodiment that you practice, to the way that you relate to each other. These are all opportunities for you to implement in your home. I would love to hear what you thought about this podcast, what words, what phrases blew your mind. And please just pop them in the comments below if you're watching along with us on YouTube. And please remember to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Like, share, comment, all of the things. Thank you so much for being here. I've got to run. I've got a call coming up here and a little sauna date this afternoon. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Mwah. Hello, you beautiful souls. Thank you for listening to the Embodied Relationship podcast with Braedy Mac. I want to introduce to you a program for those of you who are in relationship, who are potentially married or just in a longer term relationship and might be feeling stuck or uncertain or simply craving more intimacy in your long-term relationship, the program that I would love to introduce to you is my signature program, which is the Embodied Relationship Council. And this is a journey where you get to embark on opening the heart and exploring the power of mindfulness, emotional healing, as well as the science of lasting connection. And it's not just about the spark, it's about creating conscious love that evolves over time and actually thrives with more time together. And so this is a space for a conversation for you and your partner to come together and to experience what it's like to grow together in love and understand the warm, loving embrace of each other's souls. Through the joys, through the challenges, we learn how to overcome all of this through conscious love. So if you're craving a love that really feels like home, a connection that nourishes your heart, I implore you to check out Embodied Relationship Council. And let's deep dive into your soul's growth, your soul's liberation, and the magic of conscious love together. If you're interested in joining the Embodied Relationship Council, click the link in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing your application come in. Peace and love, everybody.